Hi, I'm Luke Serrano. I'm with Brainstorm School. I'm joined here with
Amber Atwell. I'm currently a student and admin here.
And we're here doing a podcast with James Paick.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me here. Really excited to be here and be a part of the community and share about what we do and sort of the industry and our passion of art.
Sweet, we're glad to have you too. So tell us a little about yourself.
So I was born and raised in Southern California. Grew up sort of like any other California kid. Went to school, played a lot of sports, but always had this passion of drawing ever since I was little. And never really thought that you could make a career out of it, which was like the biggest connecting point that I realized in my like early adulthood was like, wow, you could actually have a living doing something that you love, which is kind of rare, right?
Yeah.
And you can do it with something that you've been passionate about ever since you're a kid. And those were the things that like blew my mind. And so that discovery was what kind of pushed me to work really hard at something that I love to do.
That's awesome.
And find a way to make a career out of it.
That's awesome. When did it click for you? When did you realize that you could make art your career?
I think one of the things that was the most prolific experience was admitting to myself that some of the traditional ways of learning weren't for me.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So one example is like everyone remembers like being in junior high school and you have to take these like math exams to like place you into high school, what math class you're going to be in.
Definitely.
And I remember this. I remember I was taking that test and I had to use a bathroom really bad, right? And the number 3 type of bathroom.
Yeah.
So I went to the restroom and I literally spent half of the class time doing my business in the bathroom. And I like failed that test.
You had to go? It wasn't like planned?
I had to go.
Oh God.
It was either that or I messed up the test for the whole class. So I was doing that, and then I went back, and then I couldn't even finish my test.
Really?
Got a really bad score, and then I remember like I was placed into like a really low class, you know, even though it wasn't really like what my score reflected. And I always thought that was like kind of weird, you know. And as I started learning and trying to catch up to what my other classmates were doing, I found that I was like not really excited about the material. I felt the thing that made me want to study was that I felt left behind, right? But it wasn't there wasn't a passion about like, oh, I want to learn and be like more knowledgeable and that sort of thing. It was a very misguided passion.
Yeah.
But when I did art, it aligned.
Really?
Yeah, and it never felt like I was wasting time. And also, I found myself putting in more time because it was something that I was really adamant about. And I knew deep down inside, it was like it was speaking to my heart, you know, and I think that was really important.
That's really cool. So you talk about you've always had this love for art. You've been drawing since you were a kid. What do you have to say to those artists out there who, you know, are late bloomers, just started drawing like maybe 2-3 years ago and that want to get into the industry? Do you have anything to say to them? Because I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Yeah. Finish your question.
Jordan and then myself also are late bloomers. You know, we just got into art recently, and it's kind of daunting when you ask, like, when everyone around you is talking about how they've been drawing since they were a kid. So do you have any advice for us also and anyone else facing that challenge? Well,
one thing is that in our art industry, age is not really a factor. Okay. So whether you're starting early or late, it's the best thing to do is start. You know.
Definitely.
And once you get into it, it's kind of like, I remember when I was younger, and then my parents would always enroll me into like these activities, and I would always be resistant. I was like, no, I don't want to do it. Like, why are you dragging me here? And then what do you know? Like 3 weeks later, I love it, right? Because number one, I had to get out of my comfort zone. But when you're a kid, like your parents force you to do it, right? When you're an adult, you kind of have to do that for yourself.
That's so true. Yeah.
And that can be either really encouraging. So your first experience can either help it or it'll make you want to go away from it, right?
Definitely.
Yeah, so I think with art, it's not about trying to get a job. It's not trying to make money. It's about feeding your soul. Yeah. And if you can be in a room with just one other person that's trying to feed their soul too, like that's when magic happens. Yeah. And passion comes together and it kind of compounds and grows really, really fast.
Dang. I never looked at it like that. You know, I always had this like pressure. It's like, I just graduated high school. I didn't know what to do, you know, and all my friends are going to these like prestigious colleges, and then like I'm over here still trying to figure things out. Now I'm at a point where like I found out what I want to do, and I'm still catching up. But there's like it's just a constant like social media just constantly shows me like all my friends are like graduating, you know, they have all their careers starting. It's like, oh, what did I mess up, you know? And it's just like, it's like I know I'm not failing. I know where I'm supposed to be at, you know. Yeah. But it's just that struggle, you know, that constant struggle between yourself, you know, doubting yourself.
And I think you make a really good point, because social media is a good platform when you can use it for sort of the benefits. Yeah. But a lot of the time, it's a comparison tool.
That's 100%.
Right? Yeah. And you're like, oh my God, like, why am I here when this guy's on vacation? Or, dude, we started school at the same time. Why is this person so much better? And there's no way to put yourself but down. Yeah. You know, honestly. And kind of feel like, why am I not performing enough? And now it becomes more about catching up, like I was talking about, versus actually doing it for your real reason. Yeah, you know? Exactly. So I try not to take social media too personally. Yeah. Like, and I listen to like a lot of podcasts from like celebrities and stuff, and they're just like, never read social media. Really? Yeah, and a lot of them say that because there's sort of sometimes this stigma with certain attitudes and stuff, and it, you know, comparison can be good if we can compare to build atop of each other, you know. So I think it's taking with things with a grain of salt and trying to be able to choose what feedback you want to use that helps your growth. You know, because I'm sure a lot of people are just going to give their 2 cents all the time.
And if you listen to everyone on social media or anyone on the internet, you know, you can't please everyone.
Exactly.
Dang. So how can you determine, like, you're talking about like choosing feedback. How can you determine like who you listen to and who you don't in social media, in the aspects of that? Because I feel like artists, you know, that's the first, they're going to put their art online, you know, and it's, if you're a new artist, you know, and you get feedback, you don't know if that person's good.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's really about knowing your ground rules. Okay. You know, and what I try to do is I always try to have, no matter how far along in my career I think I'm going, I always try to have someone that's helping me as well as like to be a teacher to me. Yeah. You know? And sometimes you have art teachers, and sometimes you have life teachers, and sometimes you have like health teachers and all those types of things. You know, there's always someone that knows more than you.
That's true.
And so I think that's one of the things that is helping me continue that understanding is there comes to a point where I don't know where to go next. Yeah. Right? Either with my personal art passion or how to, you know, grow like your concept art career. And so it's always good for me to kind of have that foundation of someone to kind of ask advice. But I use that to filter those comments, you know, because if it's not fitting within what I'm trying to do, feedback is, you just only want to use the feedback that can help, like, you know, put in the fuel.
That's true.
You know, that continues the growth.
Yeah, good feedback.
Yeah. So it's like, hey, James, like, you do environments really well, but you ever think about like doing 3D spaceships? I'm like, yes, but that's not where my 100% interest lie.
Yeah, I'll do it as like a sketch or something, you know, for fun. But I got you. Yeah, that's good. You need that anchor, you know, those people, those anchors, like the people in your life that only show you, like, not only show you positivity, but are only like positive influences on you. Right. You know, like parents or like family, good friends.
And so I sometimes think about GPS. Right. Okay. Like we have GPS in our car and our phone. So GPS is like it's like your guider. Yeah. Right? It's your teacher, your mentor, your parent, friend, or whatever. And along the way, you're going to pass by an endless amount of exits. All of those exits technically are opportunities to even get to the same goal point. But there's an efficient way and there's the long way. Yeah. And that's sort of like how you want to digest feedback. You know, even with Gumroads, Patreons, the amount of schools and teachers that are out there, I know a lot of students probably get really conflicting feedback. Yeah. Because every artist try to figure it out for themselves, so it's not always the same way. And it's just like taking the 5 freeway. You got how many exits before you get to your final destination?
And that's the toughest part, especially when you're an art student and like one teacher is telling you this, when another teacher is telling you that. That's like a struggle.
Exactly. So when I was going to school, actually, the the hot thing to do for students was to learn under one teacher for as long as you can.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Instead of getting crazy feedback from like 10 different sources where it's the depth only goes this deep, you're able to really create a depth of knowledge from one specific person that you respect as a person, a life mentor, an artist, and you use that, and that allows you to help understand every other sector of what you're trying to do, you know? So it's really about learning deep and not learning wide.
That's true.
In the beginning. Yeah.
That's a good way. Okay, we'll cut it there just for that, and we get to start recording again for that.
Rolling.
What?
All right. So you talk about like having that one teacher for students to get that feedback. Who was your mentor that you got feedback from this whole time?
You know, there was always a mentor in the picture, and it sort of evolved. And that's one thing that I want to kind of talk about, which is the first mentor that spoke to me, like as a mentor, right, was this teacher named Bob Cotto at Art Center. And Bob was one of those teachers that you never wanted to disappoint. You would come in early, you do everything he said, he would speak with respect, he knew his craft, and he was super inspirational, right? And everything you heard from this guy, you're like, it's the law, it is gold, like nothing else matters. And I think that's what's really important, because you want to have that information so that you can practice it and master it and then get to the next point. Yeah. So for him, Bob was the person that transitioned me from understanding how to draw into understanding how to paint. And I think for a lot of students, that's like a really big struggle. So that transition, understanding foundation to painting, was a really, really big impact that he had on my life, and his attitude about how to work with people. Take your craft seriously, you know, be a professional, come on time, come early, have everything prepared. Don't walk in when class starts and start putting up your work, because then you're already late, right? So those were the things that he taught me, and he probably didn't even know he was my mentor, you know. But
really?
And but I would be so attentive to whatever he was saying that whether he knew it or not, I was learning from him like tremendously.
And I think that's very important, especially as a first mentor. You need to have that very strict, you know, almost like militaristic kind of like, so you don't. I feel like when you're kind of learning, that's the easiest way to stray off. You know, that's the easiest part of your life to stray away from the path. You know, technically. So if you have someone who's constantly like guiding you and very strict on that, I feel like it really helps.
Yeah, and so one of the things too is that, you know, if you have a high sense of discipline and you're able to create that structure for yourself, you don't always need the sort of like really hard push. You just need someone that inspires you, you know? And that's something that we try to always do at Brainstorm, which is we try to create that inspiration source that if you need it, we will give you that extra push. But if you do have that discipline, we are here to create that structure so that you really thrive within that, you know? And because Bob had such a big impact on my development, it's the thing that, you know, we kind of wanted to set as an example for students to experience at Brainstorm.
That's good. Yeah. So, spoiler alert, you're a co-founder of Brainstorm. Can you explain how this amazing school came to be? What was your inspiration? You know, how did it go down? You know, just tell us about the summary of it.
So I've been really close with John Park, who is also the co-founder of Brainstorm School, for quite a while, and we just sat down over a bowl of noodles, and we were talking about education and how, you know, it's really awesome that there are other outlets for students to really learn outside of the major large like learning establishments. But when we thought about it, we're like, it would actually be really cool if maybe, you know, some schools would do this because it actually works in the industry. And it'd be really cool if we taught students like how to create their creative pipeline that matches what works in the studio so that they have the easiest path to start working. And once we said that, we kind of looked at each other and said, why don't we try that? Like, we have educational experience. We work in the studio. We work with games, film, theme park, animation, TV, commercials, advertising. we kind of know what they're looking for. So we started with one class with 12 students.
Really?
Yeah. It was actually downstairs in my studio.
Uh-huh.
I had about 150 square foot room, pretty small room.
Yeah.
And we fit about 12 people in there. That was our first class.
Oh, so it was like super packed.
Yeah, super packed. Everyone got real close to each other. Became family real quick. And soon after, it just started to grow because what we're thinking is that the students maybe reacted or felt something a little different. Mm-hmm. That's what my hope was. And slowly it started to grow and grow and grow. And now we're at we have like 22 classes, everything from character design, foundation, digital painting, environments, creating a portfolio, even understanding the art and business side of our industry. So we're really trying to create that full experience that is what actually works in the industry.
That's amazing. Yeah, Brainstorm is actually an amazing school. You guys should definitely check it out. But what do you think is the biggest payoff as a teacher, as a founder for Brainstorm? What do you think, like, who do you think is, let me rephrase that. How do you think Brainstorm affected the art world, if that makes sense, you know?
We try to reduce the clutter.
Okay.
We know what is an effective portfolio to get people into the door. And that is the hardest thing for art students to get, is that first exposure and that first experience. Once they're in the door, they start to hone their skills. They develop their professionalism. They develop all these other skills to keep them thriving in the industry. But it's that first crack, right? That's the hardest. Putting the scratch in the armor is the hardest thing to do. But once it's there, you can keep hitting it and you'll eventually get all the way through. And our job is to really create that first experience. And what ends up happening is those first experienced people grow together and they bond together. And hopefully as the industry is growing, they grow together and they can become really influential artists, directors, designers in the world now, you know, and they're learning together. So that was kind of the focus.
That's a good analogy.
So you say there's a time where you got to try to get your foot in the door.
Yeah.
A lot of students are struggling with that after they graduate from Art Center, Fullerton, Noman, wherever they go. But what was that like for you when you graduated from Art Center? How hard was it for you to actually get your foot in the door, the connections you made?
So I was fortunate enough to get a job very soon after graduating from school. But it wasn't in the job field that I wanted to work in.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was actually in advertising at first.
Okay.
But it was geared towards film and video games. So marketing for movie posters, game packaging, all the big banners that you'd see at E3 or Best Buy for like you know, Call of Duty or whatever that is, right? Yeah. We would design all that stuff. And the thing that was really interesting was it wasn't what I wanted to do as a career choice, but it helped me learn many, many tools. So it wasn't like taking me this way, but I was sort of circumventing, but I felt like I was still going that same general direction. I stayed there for a couple of years, really learned the tool of Photoshop, and that's what gave me more ammunition. The more you know your craft, the more you're going to be able to sort of manipulate it to what you want it to do, you know? So that was one of the big things. After doing that, then I started in my first concept job about 3 years after graduating school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you were there for a long time.
Yeah, so I was there for a while, learning the craft, learning about pipeline, you know, which is really helpful, creating good relationships, understanding how many different types of people are actually at a studio. You know what I mean? Because you're going to get guys that are like super open, and you're going to get people that are kind of shy, people that are more introverted versus, you know, extroverted. So learning how to work with different people was really important too.
That's good.
Because you're all there for the common good.
If you're trying to find work as a professional, when is a good time to like submit work or your own work?
Like, when do you know it's time, you know?
When do you know it's time?
Because I feel like you, as an artist, you're always like, oh, this isn't good enough. I don't want to show anyone yet.
Yeah,
I think that's the biggest thing also. It's like, we're always scared to show work. So just taking that step, you know, just starting, like you said earlier.
Yeah.
Like, when is it time to just show your work, you know?
So that's a good question, because over the course of looking through a lot of portfolios, I think I've noticed about 3 major categories. Okay, one there is the student who is not technically ready, okay? But their portfolio review is more about how to get there, okay? So they're gonna need the guidance of either an instructor or some sort of mentor, or even maybe just like people that they've known for a while that might be slightly more advanced. Their eye is a little bit more developed. If they can look at their portfolio and only talk about, are you ready, okay? Is your foundation good? Do you do perspective really well? How's your draftsmanship? Is your form readable? Can a modeler read your forms? Because remember, that's our job. It's to relay an idea to the modeler. That's purely our job, okay? And if we can't supply that to the modeler, then we're not really doing our job right, you know? The second type of portfolio are the people who are ready, okay? And they just need a little bit of maybe support to get it out there, you know? They are technically ready, now they just know they have to learn how to put it out there.
Yeah.
You know, because now there's social media when I came out of school wasn't really in existence.
Oh, you're old.
Yeah, I'm like analog, man. So we had to like mail portfolios, like physical portfolios, and we would never get them back. You know, really? So we had to put cases together, send them out, knowing that it would stay there forever.
Yeah.
And
talk about old school.
Yeah, right. So now, because everything's digital, it's so easy to get it in front of people that almost anybody has the access to get it in front of people. So knowing how to do that properly is really important. Then there's a third portfolio, okay, which is, it's really good, but people are afraid to show it because they're scared that their ideas might get taken. They're a little too maybe precious with getting feedback, or they don't know how to take criticism well, so they kind of hold it away from the public, which prevents them, right? So those are the three main types of portfolios. And all of them have to do with one main thing. Having someone just give you real feedback. You're not ready, you're ready, hey, just put it out there. You know what I mean? And it can be in the form, again, of a friend, of a teacher. Even when I was going to school, we didn't have access, we didn't have like close relationships with our teachers like that, like in a sense where you can meet them outside of school.
Oh, really?
We just thought they were, maybe we didn't try, and they probably would have met with us, but we just thought it wasn't an option.
Yeah.
You know, oh, that's a teacher, like we gotta leave them alone, you know? Like they go home after school, you know? And then so we created our own small group. It was like 5 guys, 5 students, guys and girls mixed, at school, and we would do critique rounds. And everyone was at a different level, so we would offer different things. And it's really kind of cool because even when I was like an 8th term student, we had 4th term students in there halfway through school. And because they were thinking about design fundamentals, big, medium, small, shape language, their feedback on my work was about shape language. And because I didn't take that class for so long, I kind of forgot to think about that. So it was really cool to get feedback from people more in foundation that were technically like I went to school longer than them, but they were giving me such good critical feedback, you know? So dropping that ego, man, art has a lot of ego, right? Yeah. You're like, who are you to tell me that my painting's wrong? Like, let's see your stuff. But it's not, it shouldn't ever be about that. It's not a race. Yeah. That's why age has nothing to do with it. Yeah. And people should know that art isn't one of those things where you're like, oh, in 1st grade, you're learning this. Yeah. In 7th grade, you should be taking algebra. Yeah. It's not like that, you know? People
are at different stages, you know, of art. And some people just get it the way it is, you know, like people just get things faster than others, you know?
Exactly.
And some people just have to work like way harder. And it may seem unfair, but, you know, that's just kind of how it is.
It is how it is, right? Yeah. And the sooner people can kind of be like, all right, let me just work with what I have and let me just make the best of it, right? Just do it. Like, don't complain like, oh, how come I don't have the support of parents? Yeah. How come I don't have enough money to buy art supplies? Yeah. You know, if you really want to figure out a way, like, I'm sure every kid has that moment where they're like, you know what? I really want this toy for my birthday. Let me like clean my room more and ask my parents like, what chores can I do? And you deserve the opportunity, right? You try to create that path to buy that special toy. Once you get it, you're like, no more chores. Like, you know, it's all done, right? It doesn't matter. And that's sort of the thing that we got to do. We got to create those opportunities for that to actually happen.
Okay.
Yeah.
You talk about like putting your work out there. And, what like platform would you say? Because you own a studio as well.
Yeah.
So what a platform that you look at in order to hire like students that come from college or like people showing their portfolio?
Because I do use social media a lot personally.
Yeah.
I see a lot of art online. Okay. I see a lot of art on Instagram. I see a lot of art on Facebook. I'm casually looking through those two platforms all day long. Okay, probably like anyone else. And when something art comes up, what's the first thing that I do is I look at their name, I go to their profile, I find their art station or their website or their Facebook page, and I try to get a direct contact with them. You know what I mean? Yeah. If I don't find them on those platforms, I'm looking at ArtStation, or I'm looking at CG Society, or I'm looking at, did they come to Lightbox Expo? Did they go to other conventions? Because you're only going to be relevant in the industry when you are actually a part. You are in the industry. Yeah. Yeah. Whether you're a student or you're working, it doesn't matter. Just be in it. And that's one of the best ways to be like, hey, I've seen you before. Like, where do I know you? And it's so much different than just being like, hello, can you look at my portfolio, please? But it's like, hey, I saw, I visited your booth.
Making those connections.
Exactly. Right? Yeah. And it's because our industry isn't really about working for companies. Okay. That's the misconception. Okay. You're not working for this game company or this movie studio. You're working for this art director. You're working for that producer. Okay, gotcha. You're working for that creative director. It's a personal relationship, right? And that's why in our industry, we have to have 5 main things. Art is just one of them. You can create what those other 4 are. A good personality, teamwork, like sacrificing, other skills like professionalism, being on time, going above and beyond. Like there's a lot of things that you can offer that will make it the best experience to work with you. And that's what's going to keep your career going.
So what are some other misconceptions students have about the industry?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Honestly, that could probably be like an episode on itself. The bigger misconceptions are, well, let me say this. It's actually a big chunk of information about our industry is just completely unknown. That's one of the things. It's like this. You want to be a professional baseball player, you're going to play baseball from Little League. You understand the game from when you're a kid, right? And then you consistently grow, and if you're good and you have the right attitude and work ethic, you might become a pro, right? But we're in an industry where you have no idea what's going on until you actually get there. And what teachers are telling you, if they're industry professionals, is probably relevant. But if you're going to a school or you're being instructed by someone that isn't in touch with the industry, that maybe hasn't worked in the industry for over 5 years, knowing that our industry is heavily technology-based, which grows fast. Technology outgrows itself every 6 months. How fast does our industry grow? And how relevant is that information now? Even though it's only 5 years old.
Yeah.
So the things that I think students have many, many misconceptions about what it's like to work in film, what it's like to work in games, what is it to be a professional in the art world. On my Facebook page a while ago, I asked this question, a blank question. What does it mean to be a professional in the art world? And the feedback was so different.
Yeah.
It was everything from you are a professional when you go above and beyond expectations. Being a professional is upholding your brand. Some people thought being a professional is you just get paid for what you do, And so I think that's where being able to gravitate towards mentors and instructors that kind of speak your language. I never thought being a professional is just getting paid for what you do. That's not really about it.
I feel like that's just like getting a job or something,
Right. Job versus career versus passion.
Yeah.
Right. And other stuff can be much more passionate, but it can also yield you a very financial stability in the future as well. So in terms of misconceptions, I think it's not knowing enough. It's having no idea what people actually look for in a portfolio even. I see portfolios that are like the newest tutorial practice that they did is in the front page. And I go, and I look at it, I'm like, that's a really good so-and-so tutorial reproduction. Okay, but let me see what you're really doing. And then there's another one. And then there's another one. And that portfolio, what it tells me is that you like doing art that other people do, but I want to see what you do. Because I'm not hiring them. Like if I wanted to hire them, or if a studio wanted to hire them, they would call them. But why are they calling you, right? Because they want to see what you do. And also when you're getting called for an interview, that also means that they probably think your work is at a good level to actually be in. So they want to get to know who you are. Mm-hmm. So imagine if you're showing, they're kind of trying to learn who you are, but you're showing this portfolio that's full of other people's work technically.
Yeah.
Then it gets really confusing.
Yeah.
So that message is like, well, who are we hiring?
Yeah.
Right?
Like they don't know how you're going to stand on your own, like if they give there's no tutorial for that, you have to do it on your own.
Yeah. So usually in the back, I start seeing their sketches. I start seeing their silhouette studies. I see their form
like
language.
Their foundation
and
stuff.
I'm like, dude, your portfolio should be about this. Mm-hmm. This is the stuff that's going to get you a job. This is the stuff that most game companies need people that know super solid foundation in order to do what's the most needed art in any studio, production art. Mm-hmm. It is the most consumed art that needs to be done, right? So if you're looking to try to get your foot in the door, it's really actually about learning really good foundation, being a good draftsman, doing sort of the portfolio work that's not as flashy. Art on social media and art in the industry that really works, they're not always the same.
That's true, yeah, because you always want to put your best foot forward. I feel like when you're doing portfolio or even social media, like you just want a really nice drawing or painting that everyone likes, but no one's gonna like your silhouettes or anything. Maybe they will, but not everyone,
So it's important to also know who you're trying to cater your portfolio to.
That's true, yeah.
Right? So on the topic of misinformation or just not knowing, you got to know what company you're going to work for. Who's going to look at it? Do some research, right? If you know that a certain art director works there, you probably can figure out really quickly what type of art style that art director likes. And if you can put your portfolio together that appeals to that person, then that's really, really helpful.
It is, yeah. So that's one portfolio tip. I've heard that it's just like catering your portfolio to whatever studio.
Yeah.
But are there any other portfolio tips you could offer other students that are trying to get their foot in the door? I'm sure you've been asked this a lot.
Yes, it's there's a thing that you have to have a sort of a realistic understanding about something, which is production art is important because it's about making sure that the information relays to the next team. When you have a portfolio full of maybe really elaborate environment paintings, keyframes, fully painted, colorful, mood, everything, right? There's so much pressure, right, to deliver what they want, that usually you have to be a seasoned professional working in the industry for 5-10 years. Because in the beginning, it's hard enough to know what your teacher wants from you. How are you going to know what a producer wants from you, right? That doesn't even speak the art language. Mm-hmm. So in the beginning, it just doesn't make sense for people hired out of school to do that job.
That's true.
It's way too much pressure. Mm-hmm. And that would be a horrible first experience in the industry. So they do the thing that is most needed, that they could see how you perform, level you up. Let's do production orthos for props. Let's do character orthos. Let's have you design something that's like a non-usable character, non-playable character. And you keep moving up, and eventually you're going to be given the assignment that's hey, give us the blue sky design of what this whole game is going to be about. Imagine that pressure. Holy cow, right? Yeah. So you want to build up to that point. Mm-hmm. And opportunity and preparation have to meet at the same point. Because if someone's going to give you that opportunity, but you're not ready for that pressure, it can kind of collapse on you.
Yeah. Dang. I never thought of it like that. I feel like a lot of people who go to school for art, it's time to become a concept artist. So they have this kind of this fantasy of oh, I'm going to get hired straight out of school and I'm going to do, the next concept art for the next character, but they don't think of it oh, I need to work my way up to that,
Mm-hmm. I would say at a certain point in time, it was like that though.
Oh, really?
Yeah. At sort of the early age and I say early age because it's like,
it's
like, it sounds like a long time ago, but our concept art industry where people went to school for it, it's pretty young.
Yeah.
You know, it's still within like a very fresh, like handful of years ago, to be honest, right? I graduated Art Center in 2004 and there was no entertainment department. It was still illustration and you kind of just did entertainment on your own.
Oh,
yeah. And it wasn't until maybe 3-4 years after, I think, that they actually created their like real department for concept design. And that's it's only probably been around for like 10 years now for education, right? So there's not a lot of information there, you know, and there's not a lot of format that we know is tried and true and that really works just yet. So, and there's always an evolution. When I went to school, it was only about Photoshop. If you know Photoshop, like you're pretty good, right?
And now that's like the foundation. Like you need to know Photoshop.
Like what else do you know? Like what's your software resume? Right? And it's just like holy cow! Like there's so much to learn.
Yeah.
So in a sense, like, what was the like original question again?
Oh, just tips for portfolios.
Okay. In a portfolio, there's two things that are showcased. One is skill, and one is your range. Okay. And both can be good and both can be bad. Okay, for example, if you have a student that's trying to show a portfolio that has a lot of skill, but it's only in one genre, let's say they only do sci-fi weapons, okay, then it becomes a bit about does that person fit the genre of our game and of our studio, right? Like someone like 343, they probably won't make certain types of games.
Yeah.
And maybe Riot won't make other types of games either. So there's always there's like a style or like a fit, right? And then so that's with technique, and then you also have other people with a lot of genre. So let's say you have a wide range of genre, but the technique isn't very high. Then that's also going to draw you back too, because people will look at the aesthetic to see if it matches their quality level as well. So both kind of have to be on par with each other, but do it the way you want to do it, right? People that are character designers should have a lot of characters in their portfolio. Like I've seen portfolios that are like, hey, I want to be a character designer, but there's like one character and there's like 13 environments, and I'm really confused why that happened, right? I'm like, you look like more like an environment guy, you know? So it's really kind of interesting where when you think about what you're trying to show and what your message is, sometimes it's not aligning. You know, and that's what a portfolio is about. It's your art profile, right? And they're going to read your profile. They're going to look at it and be like, I think this person is right for me. I think this person is right for the team, right? And that's what you're really trying to showcase. Yeah.
Thank you.
Let's say so. You're an owner for the school, and you also have some experience as a teacher as well.
Yeah.
Has there been like a crazy student success story that's come out of Brainstorm?
Oh yeah, gosh. There are quite a few actually. We've been fortunate enough to work and collaborate together with some outstanding artists that just have made tidal waves out there. You know, we have artists that came out of Brainstorm, such as like Finney McManus. Leah Yu. We have a whole team of brainstormers that are over at DreamWorks right now. So a lot of people at Riot Games, people at ILM, Sony Santa Monica. Kind of the list kind of goes on. Six More Vodka, Daybreak. Gosh, like I can go on. Yeah. But that's the thing is that we kind of sit back and like, why did that happen? Yeah. You know, and it kind of stems back to, okay, let's make this purely about passion and let's create the structure. Let's just create a structure so that people don't have to do it on their own. Because I know a lot of people are like, hey, you need to figure out what you're going to do. You need to figure out your schedule. You need to be regimented. And it's like, dude, I don't even know how to make my bed in the morning. Like I forget sometimes, right? How regimented can you be when you're when they're like that, right? So we've said maybe we can supply that. You know, through the years of doing my own freelance studio and eventually making my own company, its structure is actually the most important thing when it's running a company, because without it, it's kind of like a foundation. Everything just collapses again, right? So that was the structure of Brainstorm, creating that ability so that people feel safe, number one, and people feel the ability to kind of like use energy to build more energy. Yeah.
Okay. So you mentioned your freelance or your studio.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
So the studio is called Scribblepad Studios. It was started in 2007, and we basically are an outsourced studio for the entertainment industry as a whole. So we work in video games, console, PCs, mobile games. We do feature film, feature animation, theme park design, book cover illustration, card illustration. So it's everything that needs artistic representation, but not just for the video game world or the movie world, but everything that's surrounding it as well. So that was the birth of Scribblepad, and the team there. We have many of the team members are from Brainstorm, and they're getting their work experience. They're learning the pipeline of a studio. They're excelling like crazy in terms of their artistic ability, and that's the thing is once you actually start working, that's when you really sharpen. You know what I mean? If you guys think like you guys are sharpening your skills during school, you're like learning a lot. You're like, oh my god, dude, I'm getting it. Dude, oh my god, like when you start working. Yeah. You're going to become like an assassin. You know what I mean? Like you're going to be such a sniper with such a precision tool. It's crazy, because you learn from such outstanding artists, and in these big companies, the energy and the sort of like teamwork is what makes it happen, So it's a lot of compound building. Yeah.
Dang.
How many would you say you started off at Scribblepad Studios in 2007, you said, right?
Yeah.
Now how many people you have employed at?
So in the beginning, it was just me.
Oh, no.
Yeah. I started my freelance career solo. So what ended up happening was I worked at a company called NCSoft. We're in 3rd Street Promenade. It was one of the branches there. And then one day we got we had a meeting, and they let us know that in about a month, our studio shutting down. Oh. And we're like, holy crap, dude, this is ridiculous. Yeah. People were like having kids, getting married. Yeah. One of our friends bought a house, and now we're out of a job. We're like, oh my god, what the fuck? So it was pretty nuts. But people always say like when a window closes, a door opens, right? Mm-hmm. And it was really about trying to find the opportunity in that really hard situation. And that opportunity was realistically like, dang, I have the opportunity to start from scratch. I can do what I want. And I know there's always this little voice inside me that was saying, hey, you should try to do like your own thing. Like just see how it goes, right? No better option or no better timing than then. You like
really?
Yeah, you had slate clean. Like it's actually a lot harder to quit a job and then do it. Yeah. Versus like I don't have a job and I can do it, right?
Because you have nothing to lose. Well, you still have something to lose, but like you have less to lose than quitting a job.
And that opportunity window was right there.
Yeah.
Right.
It was perfect. Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
So that's what happened. Was right when that opportunity started, I started to freelance on my own, and I said to myself, I'll give it 3 months. And I have to reach a certain kind of goal, right? Which was just let me make the goal was make enough money by 3 months so that I could at least cover my month to month, and that was it. So I got a lot more passionate. I started networking more, meeting a lot more people. I took almost any job because again, it wasn't working for the company. I wanted to meet people.
That's true.
And that person referred me to another person, which then referred me to other people, and it kept on growing. And after about 3 or 4 months, I was full-time busy, right? And then after a year, I actually didn't have to look for work. All the work was coming to me.
That's a blessing.
Yeah, it is a blessing.
But it's also a lot of work. That's the thing that people have to realize. It's like you have to finish your work for the studio. Let me start over. You have to finish your work for the studio. You don't know if this project's going to get greenlit. So you don't even know if you can release this work.
Oh, I got
right?
you. Yeah.
But then how do you keep promoting your work? You have to do other work.
Yeah.
Right? And then so you're developing your skills. And then you have to set more time to be like, let me email new people. Let me post my work on whatever. And then let me, I also have to make sure I'm doing my invoicing because you want to make sure you get paid, right? Don't forget the invoicing. And there's a lot of other things that you realize you got to do when you're operating your own business.
Yeah.
And that's how I started to realize like, oh, wow, I have to really develop these other factors outside of just art. Yeah. So one thing that was a crucial point in development, when I kind of talk to my friends and I actually look at my own past too in like retrospect, is there was like a turning point when you realized how you learn, you know, and everyone learns from a different way, and and then when I look back at like academia, like going to, you know, grade school, junior high, high school, college, is you almost feel like that's like the only way you're supposed to learn, right? You read a book, you get tested, and it's like a memorization game or something like that, right? Yeah. But art is so different in the sense that you can know it, but if you can't do it, it doesn't matter.
That's the biggest thing, yeah. Because like you go to school and you understand the concepts, you understand anatomy, you know, perspective, but you just can't like mechanically. There's a barrier there, you know. So how are there any ways you learn to learn better, or there's like, I don't know if that's phrased right, you know?
Yeah.
But,
so, okay, check this out, right? Like, academia was a teacher talking and explaining and maybe showing graphs. I had a similar class at Art Center that was taught a similar way, and I couldn't absorb any of that information because it just reminded me of school. Like, I automatically, like, shut my brain off because it just reminded me too much of, like, 4th period Spanish in high school. You know, and I was like, oh. So I like totally shut off. Yeah. But I kind of realized that I could do the same learning, but more in application, right? So what ended up happening was, fast forward a few years, I had an art director that specifically called me on and said, hey, James, your color is not that good. Okay, you know values well, but I know where you are. You're not able to turn values into color. And so he goes, check this out. I'm going to sit down with you after work for 30 minutes every day. And I'm going to show you how I do color. Not explain it. I'm going to show you, and then you copy it. And it was really cool because he actually knew the format. He knew that you're supposed to just take a warm and cool color and just play with those two and make a composition out of it, right? Then he goes, you know what? I'm going to take this color out and I'm going to substitute it with another color. And I'm going to take this cool out and I'm going to substitute it with another cool. And then slowly I started knowing how to learn to use 2 colors. And then he goes, okay, you're getting the hang of it. Let me introduce another color. And then so I started to see the buildup. And I was like, man, this is brilliant, man. I just need to get my hands wet and play with paint to see how it reacts by trial and error. It's like, I got to touch the fire to know that it's going to burn me, and then I will know that forever. So that was kind of the way I thought, okay, this is the way I should learn, okay? It's not about hearing everything, but it's about doing it first. Then when I hear it, it actually makes sense. So I kind of had to do it the opposite way, right? And so that's what I try to do every single time now, is I do it first. I will probably fail, and that's okay because who succeeds on their first time of doing anything? It's like really rare.
That's true.
So fail. Go back to that lesson, hear it. And you're like, oh, that's what they're talking about. Like at this fail point, that's what I should have done, you know? And then so now it starts to actually make logical sense, you know? So with the school, it was like, yeah, it would be great to have, you know, a foundation track, a character track, and, you know, we should make it fully like, you know, curricularized. But no, we should just start with one. You know, we just got to start it. You know, get the hands wet, feel it, talk to the students, see what they're trying to learn. Where are we missing? Go back to the beginning, learn from those, and keep going. You know, so I try to implement that way of learning through everything. You know, even when it's learning how to work with different people, how to work with a different client, how to work with yourself, how do you teach yourself new skills? You know, as uncomfortable as it is, sometimes I just like go, I'm going to go to this event or this gathering that's like totally non-art related. Maybe it's a music festival, maybe it's like a food convention or whatever. And I'll just go there and you realize like, you're like, damn, I had a lot more fun than I thought. You know, because you're just putting yourself out there. And you never know what those experiences are going to bring, right? So the unknown is really interesting. So you just got to do it. Yeah.
That's scary, you know, taking that leap of faith, you know. That's very scary, especially for people like more introverted, you know, especially in social like events and stuff. That's just getting enough courage to take that step, you know.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So I kind of think that art director that spent time with me so much. And I always think back, like, what if that person never came to me to do that? Would I still have the same experiences? Like, I cannot really say. And I'm like, wow, I got really lucky that he came to me first, you know? And you know, people, like, students sometimes ask, like, how do I get a mentor, right? And the funny thing is that sometimes if you have the ability to be around a certain person, an instructor or another artist or a professional, you're sort of being mentored by, like, osmosis. You're being around them and you can absorb, right? If you're paying attention. And there's also the other kind where a mentor is going to see your struggle. They're going to see that you're passionate and that you're, like, a pure soul for trying to do this, and they will offer the help to you. You know what I mean? It's not about hitting up, like, professionals, cold call and be like, hey, will you mentor me? That's not really a mentorship.
I think people have this, like, this stereotypes, like, oh, mentors, like, one-on-one all the time, like, no, like, that's all they do, you know? But you were saying earlier about the guy from Art Center, I think it was Bobby, like, he didn't even know he was your mentor, you know? But, like, you got all that information through him. That's cool.
Because it's cool, because, like, he'd come into class early because he knows that people got to set up. So he's there early. I come in early on purpose just so that while I'm setting up, I can just ask him really personal questions.
Oh, wow.
Not like personal, but like stuff that I wouldn't be comfortable asking in front of a class.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah. And you know, he'd be there, he'd be standing next to me while I'm pinning up work. He's just sipping on his coffee, and he would give me just, like, really good information, you know? And it was information that, like, you're like, wow, because I asked this question, I'm getting really specific information. You know, sometimes you just need to ask in order to receive. It's kind of funny. So when I learn a lot more about cars, it actually helps me become a better designer. And because you kind of learn how things function, you learn why things work together. You understand that, you know, when there's a part that's a bit more robust and solid, it's supposed to do that for a reason, you know? So when you're designing environments and you're designing characters or props or anything, it automatically becomes a lot more functional and believable, right? Because you're learning from real engineers, actually, right? And that was the thing that became so infatuating about cars. I also did a lot of that with other things like cooking, you know.
Really? Oh, wow.
Like, I love to cook, and cooking is all about recipes. It's about preparation, knowing what you're going to do from the beginning all the way to the end. You can't kind of just stray midway. You know, then your dish is, like, really confusing, right? Started off as spaghetti, but now it's like
a sandwich.
it's a sandwich, like a spaghetti-wich, you know. So when I cook more, it kind of reinforces some of the rules that we know about concept design and about design in general, you know? And you're like, wow, like, Gordon Ramsay, he's a designer. You know what I mean? So, like all these people are designers.
I've been watching so much Kitchen Nightmares.
I love those shows too, you know?
It's so funny. He's so... You don't understand, like... You know him for being an angry chef, but the thought and, you know, the actual art is in his food. It's just... It's insane.
So those are, like, the big hobbies that have a really close overlap with concept design. You know? What else?
I know we have, like, a lot of gamers out there that are watching this. So do you play any video games other than, like, on the side?
Yeah, I used to play a lot of video games. These days I play when I can, and I feel a little bit out of touch with some of the newer video games that are out there. But when I was younger, I would have to like, so my grades weren't good, so my parents would, like, take away the Nintendo, like the 8-bit Nintendo, right? And then so I would find it. They'd always put it in their closet, like underneath, like, a shoebox. And I'm like, oh my god, that's so easy to find. So I sneak it back in, and I'm playing, and then they'd find it, and I get in trouble, they'd hide it again, right? But I've always had this thing about, like I'd have to hunt for it. I didn't worry that I was going to get in trouble. Like, I just bite the bullet, but I'd always have to find it, and I'd have to do it, right? And that almost became my outlet, right? If I could find it, then I can play the game, you know? But anyway, some of the games that I love to play I'm really into simulation. You know, I'm not really a big, like, arcade run and gun, like, you know, button mash kind of guy. I love playing any type of military simulation, racing simulation, things that are like a bit more representational of like real life. Yeah. I really kind of dig that.
Yeah.
I don't know why. But the thing is I love to design games that are like bigger, like more fantastic and that sort of thing. But the games that I play
are like just kind of taken back and just
I almost think it's like my little vacation, you know, because I love racing so much. I'll play a lot of racing games. Like, I'll play Gran Turismo, Corsa, Seta, like a lot of stuff, Forza, and when I'm there, it's like it's so believable. I feel like I'm at the racetrack, you know, and it's like a little timeout, which is great, and then it refreshes my brain because. Remember, we're going to be doing concept art for a very, very long time. You're going to be doing it every day. And probably 20, 30, 40, maybe even 50 years. And it's good to know that you're supposed to be doing a marathon and not sprinting the whole time. So do take breaks. Do enjoy the look, you know, look at the flowers, or was it smell the flowers, right? Step on the flowers. No. But yeah, go out and experience because you know when you guys know Ben Morrow? Yeah. So you know he did a lot of traveling. And he was like working remotely for all these studios like around the world. And when you talk with him, it's like that was one of the best experiences of his life because he got to gain so much of a broader horizon of understanding and influences. By traveling to all these different countries. And I think that that's such a powerful message, you know, that says, hey, if you have the drive, you could actually travel around the world, set yourself up to be, you know, working and be safe financially and have the stability and security, but just do it the way you want to. Yeah, that's what's really cool.
That is cool. So thanks, James, for joining us. And got audience watching out there, just be prepared for more content coming out. Check out Brainstorm Inland and Brainstorm School in LA. And yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, guys. I think we'll be back again.
No, definitely.
I want to do some more of this stuff. It's awesome.
Thank you.